Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thank you for tuning into this video. Before we jump into why I think silver will hit $100, I want to give a short disclaimer because I don't want to mislead my audience. There's also a lot of new stackers, a lot of new investors into the world of precious metals, and there's a lot of false information on YouTube. Silver pumpers will portray that silver is going to reach $100 tomorrow. Well, I hate to break the news to you, but it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next week. It's not even going to be next year. But within the next 5-10 years, it's definitely possible. That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, is why I think silver will hit $100 and the realistic time frame that it can happen. So before we start, make sure to smash the like button. Let's see if this video can get 300 likes. That'll be the most likes I've asked on a video ever. Let's see if we can smash that like goal. 300 likes. Everyone like the video right now if you love precious metals. This is definitely one of the best articles I've read in a very long time. This is going to be an extremely good video. Make sure you watch till the end because this guy breaks down silver's true value, its true potential in a way that I haven't seen in a while. He brings the charts into it. He brings everything, all the angles from supply and demand, the gold to silver ratio. This is definitely the best article. By the end of the video, you will have a clear sight, a clear foresight of where silver is really headed, and without the biased opinion. Because there's a difference between opinion and fact, and this article is basing everything off of fact. Now, I do want to mention this article from Seeking Alpha will be in the description if you want to check it out yourself. With that said, let's jump into it. So, here's a summary. Investors may consider some exposure to silver as the multi-year supply and demand surplus scenario looks to be transitioning towards a more favorable picture. On the demand side, I expect industrial production to ramp up by H2 2021. The increasing trend of electrification and solar energy should support demand sentiment. In these heady, uncertain times, laced with excess monetary stimulus, silver to me offers more value than gold. And that's definitely true. I'm going to dive into these points later on in the article. So this is a tweet he posted. The gold to silver ratio is at a new record. Can the white metal play catch up to the yellow metal? This is when the ratio was at 125 to 1, meaning it takes 125 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. That's the cheapest silver has ever been relative to gold in history. That was a record-breaking high. So a couple weeks ago, I questioned if silver might take some steps to correct its broad underperformance relative to gold. Since then, the former has made some headway in addressing this, with May proving to be a really good month so far. Of course, this outperformance has come over a very small sample size, and I don't want to jump the gun, but I do think there are some rather interesting conditions brewing for the medium-term prospects of the white metal. And I like how he says medium-term. The short term is going to go up and down. There's going to be corrections, but the medium to long term, the next 3-5 years, that's where the real potential is. So the gold to silver ratio. The gold to silver ratio has almost always been a good leading indicator of how things could pan out in the world of silver. Although it's fair to say that we might have to calibrate our expectations given how this ratio has zoomed towards unprecedented levels recently. Up until this year, the long-term average of this metric was around 60, with the 85-90 level being hit only 4 times over the last 20-odd years. At 100-plus levels currently, this ratio does appear rather stretched with room for more reversion. Even if you think reversion towards the long-term average of 60 might be a bit of a stretch, I do think there are some compelling fundamental factors that could help push the ratio down to the bottom end of the ascending price ratio channel, which is around 80-90 zone. So it's interesting to talk about the gold to silver ratio because it's been, the actual average, if you want to talk about all the way from 5,000 years ago, it's around 16 to 1. Yes, you heard me correctly, 16 to 1. It used to be 2.5 to 1. 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold. That was in biblical times. That was in Egyptian times. And they saw silver as magical because it could purify water, the way it responded with different elements. But nowadays, actually, in the 30s, FDR changed the gold to silver ratio from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1. And it hasn't really fixed since then. So FDR is the one that really kicked the gold to silver ratio up. He's the one that kind of swept silver under the rug, kind of undervalued or devalued silver. So here's the broad supply and demand picture. I've been talking a lot about supply and demand on this channel, and how influential this is to silver's price. Now, this is the meat and potatoes on why silver could hit $100. And let me remind you, 9 years ago, silver was $50 in 2011. In the 80s, in 79, 80, silver was $50 again. So if we're talking about $100 silver, it's definitely possible given the conditions in the economy. Look back when silver was $50 in 2011. The same things are happening on today's terms, but we also have a global pandemic on our hands. So things are more extreme. So if you want to talk about extreme prices, well, we're living in extreme times. So over the last 4 years, the supply and demand equation for silver has not been conducive for silver prices, with a surplus being seen every year. However, what's encouraging is the imbalance has really come off from the elevated levels of 62 to 68 million ounces seen in 2016-2017. In 2020, while we are likely to have yet another year of surplus, you're still looking at a whopping 53% year-to-year drop in the market balance at 14.7 million ounces. And the key position here is between industrial demand and mine production. While industrial demand has grown at a 3% increase from 2015 to 2019, mine production during the same period came off by negative 2%. And I don't think we are too far away from having a deficit situation in silver. So we're talking about demand rising and supply falling. Low supply, high demand shoots the price up. Here's silver supply. Mexico and Peru, some of the top, they equate for 40% of the global silver production. They've been abandoning silver mines. Silver mines have been shut down due to this pandemic, and they're not focusing on silver. They're focusing more on gold, lead, and zinc. So there's not much silver being dug out of the ground being produced, but the demand for silver is boosting more and more and more from 5G technology, from electric vehicles to solar panels with green energy. The list goes on. So Mexico remains by far the largest producer of silver, making up 23% of the global production. Peru is the other dominant country in this space. And even before the pandemic brought things to a standstill, there were some pretty significant production cuts in both these countries last year. And this is so true. Before the pandemic even hit, before this was even a thing, I was talking about supply and demand and how far this supply was diminishing. There were still pretty significant production cuts in both these countries last year. This was mainly on account of declining grades at several large mines and disruption-related losses at some major silver producers. This year, things have turned for the worse since mid-March, with all key silver producers being impacted by mandated production suspensions, refinery and smelting disruptions, and transport disruptions. Right? You got to think about not only digging it up, but transporting it is brought to a halt as well. Mexico is still in broad health emergency with lockdowns until May 30th, although mining has been permitted since May 18th, provided a certain mine is located in a municipality with few active cases. In Peru as well, one has seen a similar theme, although there has been a gradual resumption of activity since the second week of May, with miners operating at a 35-40% capacity. All in all, 66% of the total global silver production was put on hold this year, the most for any metal. So it wasn't just 40%, it's actually 66%, because there's other countries as well. And silver is found from byproduct, found by accident. It's found when they're digging up gold, lead, or zinc. Like, they're looking for gold, but if they find some silver on the side, they'll take it, right? Even for the rest of the year, I'm not sure we can expect a significant ramp up on the production front with big silver mining companies, including Pan American Silver Corp, First Majestic Silver Corp, all announcing to cut capex and exploration activities. So it's not like we can even kick up a gear. And the thing is, the miners know the consequences at hand. They know that demand is rising. They know what's going to happen if they're not digging up silver. Silver is so widely needed in electronics. They know this, but they're chasing the greenback. They're chasing the dollar. Silver's not that profitable, especially if over the last year, silver's been $15, $16, $17. They don't care about that. Gold is at all-time highs right now. They're focusing on gold. They're focusing on metals that are going to put money in their pocket regardless of the consequences. And now we're starting to see the consequences come up, and this is why silver is starting to kick up in gear. So silver demand. Unlike gold, silver's utility in the industrial landscape is a lot more pronounced. Key applications include electronics, automobiles, medicine, solar, water purification, window manufacturing, and brazing alloys. I wrote recently about why we could see a pickup in the global industrial production by H220, and that should bode well for the prospects of silver, with industrial demand accounting for 55% of the total silver demand. Two silver consumer segments that I am particularly enthused about are the automobile and the photovoltaic segments. Silver's use in automobiles has gone up considerably over the last decade due to a push towards more electrification. And that's so true. Silver is one of the most highly conductive metals for thermal conductivity and electricity. While this industry may have been hampered by H1, demand in the large auto markets of the world is preparing for a rebound. So this is another tweet. So after months of dismal auto sales, will the sector show a turnaround if demand picks up in the top 2 most populated nations in the world? If you look at the supply-demand table above, you can see that industrial demand from photovoltaics has grown very strongly, doubling from 48.4 million ounces in 2014 to 98.7 million ounces in 2019. And that's because of green energy. Everything's turning green energy now, right? And silver is used in these solar panels, photovoltaic cells. So 5G technology, these 5G towers taking over. 5G is the new age of the internet. Silver is needed for that. Automobiles and green energy or solar panels. So silver is going to be needed more and more and more. So demand rising, not even talking all this, but also look at the single-handed people like you and I, that's also going to be investing into silver. All that combined, demand is going to be exploding, but the supply is diminishing. So the supply of silver is going down, 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 but the demand is going up, up, up. That's only going to push prices higher, silver prices higher, right? According to Allied Market Research, we're looking at a 21% CHGR industry poised to hit 223 billion by 2026. An interesting concept is that gaining traction in the US is solar carports. This is one of the most viable options for refueling EVs, electric vehicles, and is currently in use at several large department stores, federal and state locations. The US Department of Energy has suggested that the country might need 8,000 solar carport stations to provide a minimum level of urban and rural coverage. In addition to a general industrial pickup as we go greener and vehicle electrification gains momentum, silver demand should inevitably ramp up. Like I was saying, and electric vehicles are going to take over like Tesla. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be actually crazy to see where silver goes. Silver, a less expensive gold proxy for these uncertain times. So, in addition to the utilitarian value that it offers in industries, I'd also like to think of silver as a gold proxy on account of the unprecedented level of recent monetary stimulus that has decimated the value of paper currencies. Precious metals such as gold and silver will be increasingly seen as a store of value to mitigate this. Gold, of course, has been the rock star of asset classes in recent past, but I think there is a greater value to be seen in silver. And that's so true. That's so true, because silver is more affordable. Silver is gold's little brother. Silver is more volatile. Silver has more potential. It hits higher highs and lower lows. If gold's going to rise 10-15%, silver is going to be rising 25-30%. But it also works for the opposite. If gold's going to drop 10-15%, silver is going to drop 20-30%. So you got to be careful. But there is more. There's more potential. There's more opportunity. And I think people are going to take that and they're going to like that. That's attractive, right? They want proof. The proof is in the pudding. They want to see those results. Conclusion and how to play silver. So the risk reward on silver is not as appetizing as it was back in March, and it was mentioned at the start of the article. May has been particularly good for this white metal, with silver futures up 17% on a 1-month basis. That said, as implied by the gold to silver ratio, I still think there is further room for silver to move. On the medium term, encouraging fundamental factors to keep interest in the metal elevated. If you're an equity person, you can consider key silver miners such as First Majestic or American Silver Corp, but this would not be my preference as they also have exposure to other metals, and you have to contend with the accompanying specific issues. And that's I always say buy the physical. If you can't hold it, you don't own it, right? If you can't hold it, you don't own it. Like ETFs, ETPs, they're good and they're great to diversify in, but you want the physical metal. There's nothing like having physical gold and silver. You can really tell the value of it. The digital side or the paper side, which are the ETFs, exchange traded funds, it's kind of like investing in the stocks, right? You're not in really control of your money. You don't know where your gold and silver really is. And if there was an emergency or whatever the case is, for you to actually get a hold of your gold and silver that you have on a screen, it's just it's irrelevant. It's not there. It's not happening. So you got to take control of your wealth and the physical asset is the way to go. So if you've been tuning in this entire video and you still don't think silver can hit $100, I don't know what you're thinking, and I don't know what you're looking at. All of this, if you've truly been listening and taking everything into consideration, should be obvious that silver is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode, and that $100 silver is beyond possible. I just want to make that clear. It's beyond possible, because when it was $50 in 2011, none of this stuff was brewing up at the rate that it is now. I'm going to wrap this up here. I've said my part. I've shown the facts. I've given you the information. Now it's time for you to do what you think is best with that information. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. This was Silver Slayer. The link to this article from Seeking Alpha will be in the description. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.